what constitutes backbiting and when is backbiting allowed. So, backbiting has been defined by the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, ذِكْرُكَ أَخَاكَ بِمَا يَكْرَهُ, to mention something about your brother behind his back, obviously, that he does not like to be mentioned. So this is a factual thing. What you have said is factual. You mention an awkward, an embarrassing issue. You mention something that will bring shame to that person, and he doesn't want it to be known, and you mention it in front of other people. This is backbiting. You should not do that. As for lying, this is even worse, as our Prophet ﷺ said, and this is slander. Now, when is backbiting allowed? Imam al-Nawawi mentioned 6 positions. Imam al-Shawkani wrote a treatise, رَفْعُ الرِّيبَ فِيمَا يَجُوزُ وَمَا لَا يُجُوزُ مِنَ الْغِيبَةِ, that raising the doubt about what is and isn't allowed of ghiba. All of these treatises and tracts are really not comprehensive. They're simply trying to give you examples and illustrations. When can you do ghiba? And I'll give you some of these examples and exceptions, but realize these are exceptions. The rule is you never do ghiba. That is the rule. Do not think that every second thing you say will be an exception. Exceptions remain exceptions. What are the exceptions? Number 1, all of the fuqaha mentioned, the number 1 exception, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم. When dhulm has been done to you, when somebody has taken your haqq, when somebody has lied, cheated, stole your money, when somebody double-crossed you, you have the right to get your haqq back. You go to the people of authority, you go to the judge, you go to so-and-so, and you say, what do I do? This person did this, I need help. So you're allowed to mention the faults of a person when your haqq has been taken. Number 2, some of our scholars mention that when you're warning against a generic public evil. So this is a person who his presence is evil, that he might be, for example, selling drugs, for example, to the children, whatever. You get my point. This is a person, he has no sanctity. You need to warn the community. This is a bad person. We don't want him coming to our community because of this. So a general maslahah that you want to protect the community, not a private sin. A person's private sins remain between him and Allah Azza wa Jal. Even if you see somebody drinking, it's none of your business to go and tell other people. But now suppose he's selling drugs to other people. He's selling drugs to the teenagers and kids. Now, this is something else, and you need to now prevent that, even if it means mentioning what he is doing in public. Another thing as well is that if somebody comes to you for a personal advice about a person that he wants to do business with, or he's interested in a marriage prospect, or any reason where it is a greater good that you mention. It is mentioned that Fatima bint Qais, hadith is in Bukhari, she came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of Allah, Muawiyah proposed for me and Abu Jahm proposed for me. What should I do? The Prophet ﷺ, in public, Muawiyah was not there, Abu Jahm was not there. The Prophet ﷺ said, as for Muawiyah, he has no money. You will not be successful marrying him. And as for Abu Jahm, he beats his wife. He will not be happy. Go and marry so-and-so. So he mentioned false about the other people, and they were not sitting there. What gives the right to mention false? Now she's coming for, it's called istishara. Istishara, specific advice. I want to know a business partnership. You know, Fulan, Zayd, Amr, I want to enter a business partnership, and I know you had a business partnership. You will say, oh, I have to tell you, you know, I found him to be somebody who double-crossed me multiple times. Beware. This is not ghiba. You are now istishara. You're giving me advice to protect me. So this is something that is also allowed, inshaAllah ta'ala. Now, the gray area, and I'll just mention it, the gray area that our scholars have differed over in this regard is that it is very common. And again, not to be too generic or sexist, but this is a little bit more common in our sisters than brothers. We have our faults, and sometimes sisters have certain things as well that's more prone to them. The issue of talking about what happened to you with another person. So-and-so did something to me, you're hurt. You want to tell somebody else what so-and-so did. You see the point here, right? So, something happened to you. It's something dealing with you. We're not talking about brother X and brother Y doing something, now you mentioning. That's 100% ghiba. How about if brother X or sister X hurt sister Y, you are sister Y. Now you want to go and tell your husband. You want to go and tell other people, right? Is this ghiba or not? And this is unfortunately the common conversation that takes place in many households and many gatherings of men and women as well. And this is where Allah knows best. I would say we need to look very, very carefully. What is the niyyah behind mentioning this awkward conversation, behind mentioning what happened. If the niyyah is to name and shame, if the niyyah is to humiliate, then it is ghibah. But if the niyyah is to get advice, what should I do? It's very common, for example, that a sister might say, oh, my husband did this and this, he said this and this, and she'll tell her best friend. She'll call up, say, you know, my husband came home, he was in a bad mood, he did this and this. And she's basically expressing a frustration, okay? Now, is it ghibah when the sister mentions what her husband did that's awkward, that's embarrassing? This is a very gray area, and Allah knows best. And a brother can do the same as well. What I will say is, we need to look very carefully, what is the niyyah? If the niyyah is to bring about sulh, to bring about reconciliation. So the reason why the sister is telling her best friend, she wants to hear an opinion. She wants to hear, what should I do? Was I in the right? Was he in the right? If I'm in the right, what can I do to get the situation back? If I'm in the wrong, should I apologize? So if her niyyah is to bring sulh, then insha'Allah, if she goes to a trustworthy source, it is not ghibah. But if the niyyah is name and shame, if the niyyah is humiliate, then this would constitute ghibah, because what's the purpose of telling the false